Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today I'll be speaking with guest Natalie Diaz on 1+1 does not equal twins, how having a duo is different. Natalie Diaz is the Pied Piper of twin families around the globe. As founder of Twiniversity, the world's leading resource and support network for multiple birth families, Nat's become a global influencer for this small niche community. Natalie is the world's #1 twin parenting and twin gear expert, serving as a twin consultant for top brands and worldwide recognized foundations. Natalie is also a twin-specific certified lactation counselor and a child passenger safety technician. Hi, Nat. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Oh, I am happy to be here on this wonderful morning. And it's so nice. I feel like I'm in your office right now. I'm already feeling more zen and centered than I was
Zen and relaxed.
a few minutes ago.
So this is going to be a first for Well-Adjusted Mama. We're going to talk about twins today. And this is a topic that I think is really important for people that are in the twin community. So I'm excited to cover this. We're going to talk about how 1+1 does not equal twins, how having a duo is different. So Nat, just start off with telling us a little bit about who you are and why you're so passionate about this topic.
Well, thank you. It's a complicated discussion, but in a nutshell, I got pregnant with twins after having many years of infertility at a very young age. I actually started trying to get pregnant when I was 22. So I got married very young, still married to that same guy. It's a mystery. That's a topic for a different day. But it was very frustrating. And I never thought that infertility was ever going to be in my cards. And I don't think, I can't say that anybody would say, unless you had an infertile parent, that, I didn't know that this was going to be something that we had to struggle with. And so going through that whole, trauma, because it is trauma, going through that whole trauma of infertility and then realizing that the only resort that I had left was IVF because everything else had failed. And then, going through that process and then literally only having 2 eggs that made it to transfer day with a very small success of them actually taking. And sure enough, they took. And I have pictures of my twins at 8 cells. It's their first baby picture. And it just began this kind of wild adventure. And now I am a world recognized twin parenting educator and advocate. And I started a somewhat, what I like to call, my kids will tell you, I started a global parenting revolution called Twiniversity. And it was, honestly, it was something that needed to happen because when I was pregnant with twins, there was only medically heavy resources. And I'm not saying obviously that those aren't important, but sometimes you need just some good freaking news. And you need to hear a positive birth story, and you needed to hear a positive pregnancy, and you needed to learn strategies that aren't from, the WebMD and the Mayo Clinic. And, if you Google things on twins, you would often, at the time, you would often find negative stories because, bad news travels fast. And I ran the Manhattan Twins Club for many, many years. I started volunteering with them when my twins were 7 months old. And I realized that when people are learning about parenting twins and you go to a blog or you go to a medical entity, that there's so many different ways for you to experience parenting. And when you are looking at all the resources that are available to you, I wanted to make sure that I created a balanced resource so that it wasn't Natalie Diaz's experience of parenting twins. And it wasn't, Miriam Smith's experience of parenting twins. It was a whole universe that you could walk into my house of Twiniversity and be comfortable in whatever room you were. I wanted you to recognize yourself. I wanted you to recognize your experience, whether it was IVF or spontaneous, whether you were a same-sex family that were expecting via surrogate, whether you were a single parent that was like, I'm just going to friggin' give this a go. And here we go. And now we're having twins. Because there are so many types of families in this world that there's no difference in the world of twins. And that's it. So I started Twiniversity. I wrote the best-selling book, What to Do When You're Having Two. I have my own podcast. That's just the Twiniversity Community Podcast with people from all over the universe. I have a fantastic YouTube channel that will go through your twin pregnancy week by week and give you little digestible bits of things that I recommend that you may consider doing that week. We have a very heavy social presence. We have a Twiniversity monthly meeting that's run by a social worker that you could come with anything. Anything. You're having trouble sleeping, you're having some, issues with birth trauma, you're having stress with your partner, you can't figure out how to cut enough coupons for formula. That is what we do. And that meets once a month. So, yeah, I created a home, and I'm not saying singletons aren't welcome, but you're kind of not. But this is a place that's for us, So that's what Twiniversity is, and I guess I started this insanity, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you have the personal experience, and you didn't share with the audience yet how old your twins are, but as I'm doing the math, IVF 18 years ago was a whole different world than it is now. The whole fertility world has just dramatically up leveled itself with technology. So, you have two miracle babies.
Yeah, I do. And they know they're miracle babies. I am very, very, very transparent with my children. I think that, since I didn't have a family that had anybody that went through anything like that, but of course they couldn't because, I'm only born in the 70s. So when this was just starting, I just want to make sure that they knew that it was just like, hey, you know what? If your leg is broken, you'd go and you would get that fixed. So if you can't conceive, you give it a try. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to go to plan B, which our plan B would have been adoption. We knew what our plan was going to be. And yeah, it was a very, very different ball game. You only had one shot. So I basically could only afford once. So if it didn't work, we had our plan of what we were going to do next. And I was okay with anything that happened. I will tell you, I was very shocked that I ended up getting pregnant with twins, and I still to this day can't understand how the heck that happened, because even 17, my kids are 17 years later, there's times when I'm still waiting for their parents to get home and like I'm a babysitter. And it was also it was a very negative thing too for me. I honestly didn't want twins. I know that that sounds crazy to say, oh, I had a lot of infertility struggles and then I got pregnant with twins, but I knew that I wanted kind of this one baby. And, I live in Manhattan and I had like this view, this illusion, I think I'm going to call it, of going through infertility so long that I was like, oh, I'm going to wear my one baby and a baby beyond. I'm going to go to the Met and I'm going to be like, baby, look, that's a Picasso. And then when you find out that you're having twins, you're like, WTFFFF, like what, how am I even going to get out of my house? I live in a walk up. How am I even going to
Right.
get home? How am I going
And,
to get
and and kids
there?
are expensive.
Ooh, ooh.
So you just doubled your fee.
At the same time, it's not even doubling your fee. Yeah, if I had two kids, I would spend the same amount. It was that baseball bat to the kneecaps that was like, wait, we have to pay for everything at the same exact time. So it's definitely a challenge, but as negative as I will say that it could be spin, it's such an unbelievable experience. And the last thing that I end our classes with, which I was telling you before we started taping that I teach Twiniversity classes as well. I always end with that it's the best worst thing that's ever going to happen to you. And you're gonna cry a lot at 3 o'clock in the morning, but then you're gonna get to a point and you're gonna look at them and say, I don't know how people have one. I just don't get it. I don't know why babies are born one at a time when you could have this. And, when they're holding hands for the first time, or when they're sharing a toy, or when it's a rainy day and all your singleton friends are freaking out because their babies are climbing the walls and you're like, hashtag play date. Like, I got it right here in my house. There's a lot of benefits to having the two. And I'm also insanely comforted that they are always looking out for each other in a way that siblings do not. So I could tell you I have the best relationship with my sibling. We're very close in age. It is nothing in comparison to the connection that my twins have.
Mm. Yeah, that's fascinating. Are your twins fraternal or identical?
They
They're
are
fraternal,
fraternal.
right?
They are
Yeah.
have a boy and a girl, so very fraternal. And you will get asked that so many times, and people will be like, "Are they identical?" And I'd be like, "Look again."
They can't be if they're
Yeah.
a boy and a girl, right?
Well,
Yeah.
no, they can't be. But then, of course, you find the two people on Reddit that will tell you, "Oh, they can," because if you have one child that's born intersexed, then technically. So yeah, I'm not gonna jump into that rabbit hole. But yeah, no, fraternal twins do. They have nothing in common but their birthday.
Hmm. Well, they shared a placenta?
No, they can't share a
Two
placenta.
separate
They have
placentas.
two separate placentas, two separate sacs. And of course, there's a variety of twins. So you have twins that can share a sac, that share a placenta. Please, that's a tough thing. And, when talking about, 1+1 doesn't equal two, we have so many serious issues that can occur during pregnancy, especially in an identical twin pregnancy, because of that whole issue of sharing the placenta. And then you could have these things called twin to twin transfusion syndrome, where the placenta isn't divided appropriately. And then there's another thing called TAPS, which is an amniotic. It's all amniotic, but it is like one twin will have a blood distribution that is like ketchup, and one will have blood that is like water. And so we run into a lot of different things in the multiple birth world that singletons will never know about, should never know about. I don't even think it should be on anybody's list. But I like when they come into our house that we're like, okay, this is the type of pregnancy that you're having. We're not saying that it's going to happen, but could you just bring this up with your doctor? Just make sure, like, could you just keep an eye on this and know that if you feel X, Y, and Z, maybe get this looked into, because here in New York City, we have such a higher incidence of a multiple birth delivery and pregnancy here that you don't see as many identical twins in Idaho and Wyoming and other parts of the country and other parts of the world and Azerbaijan. And, you know, I could list the places that we reach, but I really want people to know, hey, listen, there's nothing to worry about. And you don't worry until somebody tells you to worry. That's the golden rule of all pregnancies. Do not worry until somebody tells you to worry. But until then, just know the facts, know your risks, and know the questions to ask. But you still don't worry until somebody tells you to worry.
Yeah, so there's an advocacy for your health and for your baby's health, without having it be from a worry. And I think that's sometimes a challenge with the internet, right? Because you can just Google too much, and then you hear, like you said, some of those horror stories. Um, it's not positive information.
There's no need for it. There isn't.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to twin pregnancy, we give you the facts, like the facts are the facts. Are you likely to deliver early? Yeah, you're likely to deliver early. So let's talk about the NICU, but let's talk about it in a real way. Let's not talk about it in this scary haunted house situation. It's just our reality. You're probably going to see the NICU. You're probably going to see it. Are you definitely going to see it? No, I hope you don't. But if you do, it was the highlight of my delivery. Who says that? The nurses at the NICU, they are to me, some of the most revered people in the world. And I'm not saying doctors don't matter. I love me some doctors. But I am saying that those nurses have such a wonderful combination of bedside manner, empathy, facts and knowledge, and just like normalcy. And so, as a parent in the NICU, my son was there for 14 days and my daughter was there for 31. That just became their home. And you get over it. And then you have these whole other issues of, breast milk is deemed medically necessary for a premature baby, as we all know. And so then, regardless of how much you thought about breastfeeding, now you have to breastfeed. And now you're like, how am I going to do this? Am I going to make enough milk for two? And to be honest with you, that's actually why I'm now a lactation consultant. So I actually went and I was like, dude, we need to just like have some serious convos about this whole breastfeeding situation. I need to know the biology behind it, because everybody's like, oh, it's possible. And if you go onto the La Leche website, which God bless them, I love you, but there's a lot more that goes with the breastfeeding than just what you can physically produce with the glands that are on your chest. It has to do with emotions, and it has to do with time. And if your babies are in the NICU, it's a whole new ball game. But yeah, it's a very different situation. And in all sincerity, it's an honor and a privilege to be, whether it's Mother Nature or, whatever, insert your person that is your higher power, that bestowed this upon you for some reason. You could initially see it as a curse, but you will definitely come to terms with what a blessing it really is.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. I'm a singleton mom, but and actually I only have one child. My husband's like one and done.
That's good. But see, there's
But
benefits to that too. I think on the same fence, like you're going to do things once, so that the thing we might actually have more in common, because people who have two children, they will say, "Oh my God, it's just like having twins." It's totally not,
right,
because you get the benefit of raising that second child with the experience that you had from that first.
right.
And so, like you and like me, we're doing this once. We're getting the
Once.
one go around. And so we're learning everything the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the trial by fire. That's where we are.
Right. Wow. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about, twin pregnancy being different. Um, so can you give me some positive birth stories with regarding twins?
I mean, we have them all the time. I hear them from my students, which I'm very fortunate to be able to teach people on a one-on-one situation, as well as in a group setting, as well as in, our online Facebook chats. We have an arsenal of positive birth stories, and people who really had a plan of, you know, I want to have, a water birth with, Enya and patchouli candles. While we may not get that exactly, we can have a realistic discussion on things that we can have. And so, yeah, you want your babies to be born rocking out to AC/DC in the OR? Hell yeah, we could totally freaking do that. You want to have a little aromatherapy? Dude, just bring some oil, slap it all over your pillow. Let's get it done. So we may have to MacGyver things a little bit differently, but you could totally have as close of a birth experience as you'd like. And one of the big things that I'm constantly preaching is that you don't have to just throw your hands up in the air when you find out that there's a second heartbeat and just say, "Oh, that's it. I'm giving in to the hospital." No, you want a vaginal delivery? Let's do this, home slice. You don't want a vaginal delivery? All right, let's do this, home slice. There is no limitation just because there is a second baby. Do we have a higher chance of having a C-section? Yeah, we do. Because we have, well, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's always the elephant in our room. You could have baby A vaginally, and then baby B is like, no, thank you.
Right. I've seen that in my office.
Yeah, it's rare. It's only about 7% of vaginal deliveries, and vaginal deliveries are already a small percentage, so the likelihood is low. But I had a vaginal delivery, and I had a vaginal delivery of preemies, and weird side benefit. It's like a slip and slide is really how that delivery went. I mean, 4 pushes. Everybody was out. Like it was, I
Four for two children.
two,
Wow.
literally 2 per child. And I could have, I'm pretty sure, shot babies directly across the room. They were just coming out, and I was in such, you're a first time mom, and this is going to go slow, and, just take it easy and relax. And I was like, okay. 5 hours later, I'm like, hey, could somebody take a quick look, see, and see what's happening down there? And my doctor, the nurse came in, and she's like, oh, let me get the doctor. And then the doctor came in, and she said, here, I swear to you, she said, here comes your fiery redhead. And you will know why this is so shocking. Go Google me now. Go literally Google and see what I look like. Because when you look like me, a very, Italian American, dark hair, dark eyes, olive skin, and somebody is telling you, oh, here comes your fiery redhead, immediately I'm like, something happened at that IVF clinic. This isn't my child. How could I have a ginger? How am I having a ginger? But I do. My husband is Puerto Rican and Irish, so there's plenty of ginger on his side of the
Yeah, there's
family.
some ginger going around
Yeah.
there.
But she was crowning so much in the labor room that they were like, okay, don't push. And I'm like, I kind of feel like I have to push. Like I don't even know what to do. Like, like, what do I do? What's the protocol for this when your doctor is telling you no? But it was an interesting delivery. I will say that, but it was something that I had thought about relentlessly throughout my entire pregnancy. And truthfully, it was the easiest part of my pregnancy. So when you hear stories, like, oh my God, my birth was horrible. Nope. I mean, just, first of all, your birth is your birth. So we could try to have things in our control as much as we want. But at the end of the day, it's kind of up to the babies. They're really the ones that hold all the cards on this. We could set the stage for whatever we'd like, but we don't have a lot of say in this. They really are going to say, okay, I want to be born today. This is just going to be it. I can't wait to meet you. I'm going to come a little bit early because, that whole thing, our uterus was meant to kind of hold one. So that's always something to keep that in mind, for the whole time that we were really meant to have one baby at a time. So having those two babies, they do deliver you a little earlier. So usually a term delivery for us is 38 weeks. So that would be premature to a lot of people. For us, if I hear somebody goes to 38 weeks, I'm like, high five, you did it. But if I hear somebody made it to 28 weeks, I'm like, high five, you did it. Because that's just the way it goes.
How many weeks were your babes?
I gave birth at 34 weeks on the day, and I started my hospital adventures at 27 weeks. So from 27 weeks to 34, I was, not constantly being monitored, but in and out of the hospital. And then, like we were talking before we started to record, I'm not saying that traditional medicine wasn't hooking a sister up, but I had always seen a chiropractor since I'm 16 years old. I had migraines for my entire childhood. And I can remember my first migraine was when I was 4 on Christmas Eve, and it was debilitating. And I could remember that day. I could remember what smells were in the room that day for the first time that I ever had a migraine. Most women in my family do have migraines. Of course, nobody even would have thought that a 4-year-old would have had one. But, for most of my childhood and even for my teenage years, I just went to, neurologist after neurologist. And then eventually I, got hooked up with this chiropractor, Dr. Mark Manning in Marine Park, Brooklyn. And from that day, I was 16 years old. I went to him and I'm like, everybody's telling me I'm calcium deficient and I'm anemic. And, a doctor could tell you all that. And then when I went to Mark, he's like, no, I think you have enough calcium. He's like, it's just not going anyplace. It's stuck. And I was like, it's stuck? The heck does that mean? It's stuck. And so with minimal nutritional supplements, like minimal, the one that I took was Cal Ammo. I could even remember because I'm like, what? And I will tell you, I am 45 from the time that I am 16 to 45. And genuinely, I will tell you this is because of Mark. I have maybe had 11 migraines max that whole time, where I was getting, I would say easily one a month from the age of 4.
Wow.
So it shows you that you can't stop freaking turning over rocks to get answers. Like, you have to keep doing it. And this goes back to you saying before that you have to be an advocate for yourself.
Yes.
My mom wasn't a big believer in chiropractic. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? Like, I can't do it anymore. I can't go to another neurologist. How many MRIs am I going to have? I'm, 13.
And it wasn't helping.
No.
Obviously, you were still getting them on a monthly basis.
Totally.
Did you know that there's an organizing app designed just for families? If you're starting to feel busy again, and I know I am, and your calendar is jam-packed with events and kids' activities, why not do yourself a favor and get Cozy? Cozy is the #1 organizing app that families use to juggle school schedules, practices, meetings, doctor's appointments, and even a workout or date night. With Cozy, you'll be all set up to know everyone's schedule, who's doing what, when, and where. And Cozy will even send emails every morning with the day's agenda. No more missed pickups or double bookings. Here's how it works. Cozy tracks everyone's schedules and events in one place with a shared, color-coded calendar. Cozy even reminds others about events so you don't have to. It's easy to get started. You can pull in events from your family's personal work and school calendars. And the best part, it's free. Just download Cozy Family Organizer from the App Store. That's COZI to get the free app today. I know I've been using it and I absolutely love it.
Totally. So, yeah. So I started going to him when I was getting into trouble with my pregnancy. And I'm like, I don't know if this is your jurisdiction, but everybody's telling me I should be worried and, I'm stressed out, like you can't believe. And the first time I went to him, I was 17 weeks pregnant. And it was the first time I ever felt my babies move. And I felt them move at the same time in his office. And I was with my mother in law and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, is that what that is? I don't know what that is. I feel like mice are running inside of my guts. I didn't know what a baby movement felt like, but it was an adjustment that brought my babies like, hey, we're going to wiggle around in here. And it was great. And then even from in the hospital after my delivery, I would call him and I'm like, I'm really stressed out about this. And he's like, okay, this is this, you lost a lot of blood in your delivery. Let's do this. This is what you should try. He'd tell my husband, get her this to eat tonight. Let's work on, could you get some dried pineapple? There's an enzyme in dried pineapple. Could you get her some, coconut? Like what? It was random. And I'm like, okay, this is a little witchcrafty. And my kids will call him, by the way, my kids do go to him often, but he is our witch doctor. He is not a chiropractor, because I think that is too small of a word for what you guys do as chiropractors. I think it's too limiting. I go full on witch doctor. I think that's what you guys should have on your business cards. Because
I do consider myself a witch.
Yes. My kids are more likely to go to a witch doctor, my 17-year-olds, than a chiropractor.
You know why? Because it works.
Yeah, it really does. And you have nothing to lose. You have literally nothing to lose. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to eat too much pineapple. Like, come on, like give it a go. So in Twiniversity class, we talk about it, like, acupuncture and acupressure and massage and meditation. I'm not saying that our OBs aren't everything. Of course, our OBs are going to be a good majority of stuff, but that's not all there is to this picture. There's a lot.
Right. That's where I can call into the birth team, right? There's a birth provider, and then there's all the supporting practitioners supporting that pregnant woman and new mom.
Yeah. So you
doulas.
Oh, forget about it.
There's doulas probably that maybe even specialize in twin deliveries.
Oh, we got a few up our sleeve, man. They're the best. They're not always. I love me a good birth doula, but not always effective with us because we don't know what's going to happen. However, you should have a postpartum doula lined up. Like I don't even understand why that's not included in our life. If you look at other countries, they have so much postpartum, support. It's insane. And then I look at us and I'm like, we're an embarrassment. We're like such an embarrassment to this world. And yet we're like, look at us. We're the best thing. And I'm like, we don't take care of our parents. We really need to nurture our moms. And I look to my Australian moms who, I get so envious with that whole postpartum stay that they have, and their whole family could be there with them, and they cook for the whole family and that your older children, and you get to have this bonding experience that I am very, very, very envious of. So yeah, for us, I think you have to have your postpartum team in place, and having a postpartum doula would be highly recommended. And it's such a, here in our area in the Northeast, we're very like baby nurse heavy. Right. But I am not a fan of the baby nurse, and every baby nurse that I'm very out about this. I am very much a fan of a postpartum doula, because that is the most organic most organic type of relationship that you could have, similar to your sister or your grandmother. And once upon a time when we were delivering, that's what you would have had. Yeah. We don't get that because we move for work and for a million other reasons. So I love that.
I know. I had the most amazing postpartum doula. And, the difference between a postpartum doula and a baby nurse is a postpartum doula is taking care of the new mom. So the new mom can then take care of the baby, right? But the laundry, the cooking, the cleaning, that does not need to be done by mama.
Absolutely.
She needs to lay in bed, rest, and ideally, if possible, breastfeed her baby.
We have the person that runs our twin meetup. She's a twin-specific postpartum doula and a twin-specific lactation consultant. She's a twin mom. She's one of my inner circle besties. So it's nice to be able to work with people that you love. But she will tell you that, going to a singleton family is very different. than going to a multiple birth family, especially because of issues that mom may be emotionally carrying from that delivery. Did it not go as planned? Had she envisioned the this is supposed to happen situation? So I'm doing air quotes with that. Like, this is the way a birth is supposed to be. This is the way, a postpartum experience is supposed to be. That's not always the way it is with us. If you have a baby with a NICU stay, or if you had some, postpartum hemorrhaging, or if you had one vaginally and one, C-section, and yet now you're kind of healing from both of those, we don't know what's going to happen. But as I tell all of our parents, it's your story. It's your story. It's, is it bad or good? It doesn't matter what it is, because it's too new right now also for you to see any goodness in it a lot of times. But it's your story, and it's an okay story. And someday you will say, like, okay, these were the highlights of it. And with a twin delivery, I'm telling you, the first time that you hold two, it's something else, man. Even if you hate it. And by the way, it's okay if you do. If you don't feel like, if you're like, I don't want to tandem breastfeeding, you tandem breastfeed. You don't have to. Who said that? Where, in what book? It's not even in my book that you have to tandem breastfeed. And if I'm not writing it, there should be nobody else out there. But you know what's so crazy that I'm going to tell you that probably most people don't know? When I became a lactation consultant, and you have to take like, a 50-hour course or something. I can't remember how long it is, but you go for days and days and days, and you sit there, and it's like a job. When we were in that course, and we were talking about, they're talking about the biology of your breasts, and they're like, it's fascinating to me. Like, I had no idea, like, how magical these wonderful lumps on me were. Like,
they're magical.
I thought they were for show. It's what my husband would tell you. But once I found out,
well, that's what men think.
well, that's all they say. They have no idea. They literally have no clue. But you're like, oh my gosh, what? And so I'm like attending this class, and I'm like, I'm really just soaking it in. And I'm also so scared because I am not an academic. So when you tell me that there's going to be a test on Friday, and I have to know what lactogenesis means, and I need to, like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make an index card. So you go through this whole course, and you get to this one kind of section, and they're talking about, multiple births. I will tell you the truth. We didn't even talk about twins for 30 minutes. It wasn't, if it was 20 minutes, I would be shocked. We talked about strategies of breastfeeding more for children with Down syndrome than we did for parents with twins. And I was really shocked, because the whole reason why we're talking today is we said, let's talk about why, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. They freaking did that to me. They're saying that 1 + 1 = 2. It is not. Breastfeeding twins is not the same as breastfeeding two singletons. And even if you want to breastfeed two singletons at different stages, sure, I could tell you about, the makeup that your breast milk is going to be different, and how the fat content could be different for a toddler than a baby. But when we're talking about, we have these two little lives that are popping out, right? And then the doctors are like, hey, you need to breastfeed. And you're like, I don't know about this. What am I going to do? And it's such a Wild West situation. And you call a regular lactation consultant, like a regular average, I found them, on my mom's group, and you're like, I have twins. They're just shooting in the dark, most of them. They literally, there's very, very little training. And so I really wish that there was like a sub certification
right.
for twins, because I know that most of the clients that I get as a lactation consultant have spoken to 3 or 4 lactation consultants before they get to me. And they're
right. Like, and your experience is really what's allowing you to be an expert in twin breastfeeding.
Correct. So you have to see it, and not only do you have to see it, but you have to know the mindset behind that person. If you didn't have twins, I'm not saying that you can't be empathetic. So please do not think that that's what I'm saying. But when you've walked in somebody's shoes, no matter what shoes they were, right? This is whether it's professional, personal. If you have a personal connection to a situation, you do have a different level of empathy. And when you're as a twin parent, that's a twin parent that only works. And I do only work with twin families. And I'm not saying that, I'll help my friends out that have a singleton, but I would rather help somebody that has twins out just because that's my expertise. I just had a family in Austria yesterday. I was on with them and they can't get the support that they need over there. And they do have regular lactation support, but they can't find anybody that's really helping them with their twins. Within 45 minutes, we had like an actual strategy up that everybody was okay with. It wasn't me saying, this is what you have to do. Let's talk through it. It was like, okay, what do you want to do? What's your goal of this? Do you want to breastfeed for a day? 2 years? Where are we going with this? Like, what's our strategy? And then, you want to have them to the tap, or you want to pump. What do we want to do for that? And we come up with things that aren't very cookie cutter. And I have never really worked with a twin family that I could cut and paste a schedule for, because it's very, very, very rare. And even if I did cut and paste, odds are there's going to be a few pieces, because it's how much help do you have? Who's in the home with you? Do you have older children? What's available to you right now? So, what pump do you have? Can you have more than one pump? Do you have to, walk a dog in the middle of a day? So everybody's got a different situation, but it's always going to go back to, you make it work what has to work, but it's just so freaking awesome. I love when a mom tandem feeds for the first time. And by the way, sometimes that takes 6 months for them to have the courage.
Be able to latch on. I can't even imagine. I see so many new moms that are having breastfeeding challenges with one baby. So I'm just trying to imagine getting two on at the same time.
It is logistically comical, is the way that I describe it. And if you like going in, I'm like, listen, this is going to be messy, but let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. And you know what? We don't know where we're going to go from here unless I could see what's going to go on. And obviously, my family in Austria that was virtual, and I do pretty much all my consultations now virtually, because that's all I need to see. Just let me look at a little rocker position. Where are their lips? How is she holding them? That's kind of universal. But what is she comfortable with? Is she too scared to be relaxed? And that's what, I'm looking at my mom's faces more as much as I'm looking at my baby's mouths. It's fun. It's really a fun little thing that I do here. I enjoy it.
So, Nat, walk me through what it looks like coming home with two babies. What is that? What is that like?
It's the good thing is as when your babies first come home from the hospital, they sleep a lot, which is wonderful. And so it's Mother Nature's way of transitioning you from the, into the birth, from the birth side to the real parenting side. And for us, we do have to be a lot more conscious about feedings. So we can't really feed on demand, because often we'll have a lower birth weight than a singleton. So there is, we got to come up with a plan. You're going to have to feed those babies every 3 hours, 24
There's a
hours
schedule.
a day. Yeah, there has to be a schedule.
And then I'm assuming you typically may not feed the babies exactly at the same time, right? Especially if there's just one of you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it really depends on who's there. So, what help do we have? Hopefully, we have another pair of hands, be it a partner, be it a parent that is supporting us, be it a coworker that's going to take some time off. I really don't care who's there, but I would love for you to have another pair of hands. But let's say you don't, which, by the way, happens a lot. We have a ton of military families at Twiniversity that are dealing with partners overseas, that are living on a military base in a foreign country with literally no support. And if you got to do it, you do what you got to do. That's you literally do what you have to do. We had a mom that had cystic fibrosis that had to wear a vest to help her own respiration while trying to feed her twins solo while her partner wasn't there. And I'm like, all right, let's come up with a plan. Like, where there's a will, there's a way. So, you feed one baby, you change a baby, you feed a baby, you change a baby, you feed a baby. The end. That's kind of how that goes. Of course, that there's a lot that goes into that, especially with burping, because we have a higher incidence of reflux. So we have to stay on point with our burps so that our babies don't lose that, so much food. We have to really make sure that we're not underfeeding them. We have to make sure we're not overfeeding them. We have to look for their tiny little feeding cues. We have to look for their sleep cues. And while I'm saying this to you, if you currently are expecting twins, you're probably trying to rip your eyebrows out right now. But I will tell you, it will come very organically soon enough. It may not happen on day 1, but maybe by day 7, and you're like, how am I going to do this for 7 days? Dude, you could freaking do anything for 7 days standing on your head. I don't even want to hear you complain about it. You know you can, because it's too late. Or you can leave one at the fire department. That's always an option after delivery. But you get into the swing of things, and you realize that these little babies are very dependent on you for everything, for comfort, for warmth, for nutrition. They just want you. They are like little babies that are so addicted to their mamas. But we also have to realize that there usually is a partner there. And I'd like to get those babies addicted to that partner as well. So we talk about, the importance of skin to skin care with your partner, and how and why it's so important. And I'm very, very big on the whys, because it's like, if you tell somebody, hey, listen, this is what you should do, that could go in one ear and out the other. So let's talk about why. Like, what's the why behind skin to skin? What's the why behind breastfeeding? What's the why behind a schedule? What's the why behind changing the diaper before a feed? So if you got the why, then you're like, that makes sense. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. But for our partners, I really try to speak to them whenever I do, whenever I'm talking to a new family, which, by the way, if you're thinking that this is a sales pitch, that's hilarious, because we do full free scholarships. I will help people for literally, if you have 2 cents, you have $10, donate it to the animal shelter. I will help you. That's not how we do things at Twiniversity. I will definitely be poor, but people will be happy, and that's okay with me. So there's other things that we could do. But for us, it's important that a partner understands their role in this. And their role, like a postpartum doula, is to support the mom and what their wishes are. However, I do think, and this is where all my moms could start throwing tomatoes, I think that it's really sad to me when moms don't ask their partners, what do you want out of this? What do you want that first week to look like? What's your vision as a parent? Because if you live with somebody and you make them feel like their opinion doesn't matter, they're not going to want to help you that much. But if everybody's on the same page and say, this is our vision as a family, this is our vision as a team, then you literally are a team. And when it comes to twins, you need a freaking team. If you can't have one, like those, exclusive exceptions of my mom's on bases, usually you have a team. And so it's very important, especially during pregnancy. And if you guys haven't done this, singleton, twins, whatever, if you got this far in our conversation, then clearly you know that I'm not blowing smoke up your butts. You have to have a conversation with your partner about what are their expectations of life after your kids are born. What type of parent do they see themselves as? Do they want to role model what was near them when they were growing up? Do they want to be in complete opposition of that? What do they want your family to look like as far as you and them go? What is your marriage going to look like? Are you going to be somebody that's going to be making out at the kitchen sink while the chicken wings are cooking? Or are you not into the PDA and you don't want the kids to be around that? Because if you have one partner that's like, I don't want to kiss in front of the babies, and then the other partner's like, blah, 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 it's not going to work out. So we have to have a harmony here. What does that look like once our kids are here? And if everybody gets on the same page, hopefully, I literally am knocking on wood, you'll have an easier experience. And the reason why we talk about this so freaking much at Twiniversity is parents have a higher chance of divorce when you have twins. We have a higher rate of divorce than the national average, multiple birth parents.
And in general, I think even singleton, anybody who reproduces is at a higher risk of divorcing.
Odds are yes. I can only tell you my stats. But it's sad, and it really.
And so what you're talking about is just, it's a higher level of stress. And if the relationship's not already solid with healthy communication, that stress is just going to put you over the edge.
Yeah. Or the expectations of each other. If you can't telepathically tell your partner that they're supposed to be feeding a baby. That's not a thing. You can't have telepathic expectations of what your partner should be doing, and vice versa. You have to be very transparent. And this has to almost be seen as like a work transactional situation. You wouldn't hire a receptionist for work and be like, good luck. You'd be like, this is what I would like for you to do. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you're comfortable with that. But if you are, then we could go to plan B, plan C, plan D. But to literally, to make a partner think, or to make your partner think that you're like, oh, I want to live in 1940s and raise these kids on my own. And, or I have the children should be seen and not heard theory. There is no right or wrong of that. But if you don't kind of talk about what your roles are going to be as parents, and you don't talk about, what just literal things that you should be doing are going to, like, in your day, are you going to now have to, if I cooked for you for every day that we've been married for the last, 10 years, and now all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I don't cook anymore. Like, we should talk about that. That's not fair to anybody, because then everybody's going to be hungry. They're going to be like, what happened? I don't know. I thought we were having Chinese, again tonight. So we have to really talk about that. And then another thing that we have with us is that we do have a higher incidence of postpartum mood disorders. With a lot of our pregnancies, you could have the best of pregnancies, but when it comes to a delivery of a multiple birth pregnancy, you don't always coast down in a wonderful parachute, transitioning back to your typical levels. Some of us crash land because we have that unexpected early delivery. And that is a lot. That is a lot. And your partner should have your OB's phone number, and your partner should know the signs of postpartum mood disorders, because when you're taking that baby to the doctor, I'm not saying you're going to lie to the doctor, but often new parents feel that they have some expectation that they have to live up to. And like, yes, I'm bonding with my baby. Are you really bonding with your baby? Like, is this really happening? So I love when partners get involved and they could have another set of eyes on mom saying, this is realistically what I see. And I know you may feel this way, and it's not a judgment, but the only judgment is that I love you so much that I can't watch you hurt. So there's a lot of things of why twins are very unique and special. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you, it's like a Discovery Channel show. It's what I feel like I've been living for 17 years, especially having a boy-girl set and just watching the evolution of how boys develop and how girls develop. And it's just funny. It's just funny and unfair in a lot of different ways. And sometimes I feel bad for my dude, but he's coming around. So it's good. But my girl's like, she's socially gifted and like she's always making friends. And my boy is like, yeah, I'll do whatever she wants. Like, she's the brains of the operation, is what I've been saying since I won't say it out loud because I don't want a self-fulfilling prophecy situation. But she's always been kind of here's the plan. And he's like, I'm going to make this work. And still at 17, hasn't changed, not one bit. She is still like, she said yesterday, she made a plan to go out with her friends. Okay, now let's figure this out, because we know you're probably an adult listening to this, but we know how difficult it is to get our friends together. Imagine getting 7 17-year-olds together at the same time to go to a museum. This is what she wanted to do. She's totally Julie from the Love Boat. And so she's like, I got us free tickets because at the Natural History Museum, New Yorkers, we get in free. It was 19 degrees. So she's trying to wrangle like 7 kids to go to the museum. And she did it. And she did it. I don't know if it's because she's been the cruise director since she came out of the womb, because that could be. But it is hilarious. And I don't know if that's just a baby A thing or a singleton thing too. Like a lot of first kids are like, yeah, I'm going to do the take charge thing.
Right. The leadership.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really, really, really fun to watch. And I'm so honored that I got to have this experience, even though initially I was devastated at that second heartbeat. And then I can remember they would be like, 8 months old. And I would look at them and I said, okay, let's say it was one. Like, which one would it have been? And I can't.
Yeah. How do you choose?
You can't. I wouldn't have known. Like, I guess, you wouldn't know who wouldn't be there. I just know that I'm very fortunate. And I think what makes this whole thing of me being a twiniversity so special is that a lot of times people don't get to look back as much as I do. Because while I'm looking back at, okay, let's learn from this, or this is what other people did. Like we could talk about it. I'm still at this age, just absolutely still stunned. 17 years later, I could go on hundreds of ways that I am so glad that there's two, from them being in the same class when they were 4 and them, protecting each other and looking out for each other. And one would be upset and they didn't want to talk about it. And the other one would say, I'll tell you what the problem is. And then you could kind of get to the problem quicker and fix it and come up, with, okay, that wasn't a great thing to do. Maybe we could do it this way. But it was just, it's unbelievable. And so for those of you that are having twins, I know you might be super scared and you may say things are never going to be the same and I don't know how I'm going to do this. I promise you, you are not alone. You have us every step of the way. And it is going to be the best thing that has ever happened. It's going to be busy. Yeah, it's all right. You're going to spend a lot of money on diapers and maybe formula, but that's cool. Wait till you have 2 college tuitions. That's all I have to say about that. But yeah, it's good. I got college in a year. That's it. Community college for everybody. That's that. That's what we're doing. I'm not even going to attempt it. It's either retirement or college. It's what it is right now. Oh, my goodness. But thank you
Well,
very,
Nat,
very
I
much
really
for
appreciate you
being
taking the
today.
time to come on and just share, just really the uniqueness and beauty of this special relationship.
It is my pleasure entirely. And the more that people understand that it is not a blanket, that having babies is going to be different for everybody. And if we could just acknowledge that and try to support everybody where they are, I think we're going to be great. So if you're having a singleton and you meet somebody with twins, just hug her. That's it. That's all you do. Don't speak about it. Just literally be like, "Can I touch you?" And she'll be like, "Okay." And then just go in for it. Just be like, "This is all I want. I just want to hold you for a minute. We're going to get through this."
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Natalie is a lot of fun, has a great sense of humor, and really shed a lot of light on the differences that twin families experience opposed to families with singletons. So I learned a lot from this episode. I appreciated covering a new topic. If there's any topics that you're interested in hearing on Well-Adjusted Mama, please just reach out and share. I'm always looking for new ideas to share with the audience. Have a wonderful day.